You know what the problem with humans is? They don't make sense. Not even a little bit. And I, Krell Vanthor, 3rd Cycle Combat Instructor at the Galactic Military Academy on Station Helix 9, had the absolute displeasure of learning this lesson the hard way. Let me back up. The Academy isn't just any training facility. Oh no. This is where the Galactic Coalition sends its best, its brightest, its most lethal warriors to be. We are talking about Throxian berserkers, who can crush steel with their bare hands. Valkyrie assassins who move faster than most species can blink. Donath strategic geniuses with 12 eyes and reaction times measured in microseconds. The elite of the elite. The cream of the crop. And then there's the humans. Now I'm a Horgathy. We stand about 8 feet tall, built like living tanks, with exoskeletons that can deflect most small arms fire. My people have been warriors since before half the Coalition species figured out fire. We respect strength. We admire tactical brilliance. We understand honor in combat. Humans are soft, squishy. They break if you look at them wrong. Their homeworld has a gravity that's barely 60% of standard. They need atmosphere controls everywhere they go. They can't see in the dark. They can't hear ultrasonic frequencies. They have exactly 2 eyes. 2, front-facing, no less. Which means they have massive blind spots. So when the Coalition decided to start accepting human recruits 3 cycles ago, most of us instructors thought it was a joke. A political statement. Maybe someone lost a bet. I certainly didn't expect them to last past the first week. Instructor Vanthor. The voice crackled through my comm unit, high-pitched and panicked. It was Drill Sergeant Plix, a Mantarian with the nerves of a frightened prey animal, which, to be fair, the Mantarians evolved from. We have a situation in Training Arena 7, I sighed, my breathing spiracles flaring in annoyance. What kind of situation, Plix? It's the war beast, sir. The containment failed during the advanced combat exercise. It's loose. My blood went cold. Well, colder. Horgathi are cold-blooded to begin with. But you understand the sentiment. Which war beast? I demanded, already running toward Arena 7. My talons scraped against the metal flooring, leaving small gouges. Please tell me it's not the Razorfiend, sir. Oh, fantastic. Just absolutely wonderful. Of all the days for this to happen, let me explain something about Razorfiends. They are not native to any Coalition world, thank the void. No, these things come from a quarantined planet called Hectras 6, a nightmare world where everything evolved to kill everything else. Razorfiends sit at the top of that particular food chain, 20 feet long, covered in blade-sharp scales, 6 legs ending in claws that can shred through reinforced bulkheads, and a jaw that can bite through pretty much anything that exists. We keep exactly 1 at the Academy. Its sole purpose is to teach advanced students what real fear feels like, and how to work as a team to bring down something that outclasses them individually. The exercise is always carefully controlled. The beast is always sedated beforehand. The students always have full tactical support and backup. Always. How did containment fail? I roared into the comm as I sprinted down the corridor. System malfunction, sir. The sedation protocols didn't engage, and the magnetic restraints deactivated during the transfer. It went berserk. Of course it did, because that's exactly the kind of day I was having. I burst through the arena entrance just in time to hear the screaming. The training arena was massive, designed to simulate various combat environments. Today it was set to urban warfare, complete with building facades, rubble piles, and narrow alleyways. Perfect for teaching tactical movement and close-quarters combat. Also perfect for an enraged Razorfiend to turn into a slaughterhouse. Cadets were scattered everywhere, taking cover behind walls and barriers. Most of them were doing exactly what they'd been trained to do, firing energy weapons in coordinated bursts, attempting to flank and distract. The Razorfiend was having absolutely none of it. Energy bolts splashed harmlessly off its scales as it smashed through a concrete wall like it was paper. A Throxian cadet, a big one named Gormath, tried to go toe-to-claw with it. Brave. Stupid, but brave. The Razorfiend's tail whipped around and sent him flying across the arena. He hit a wall with a crunch that made even me wince. Maintain distance. I bellowed into the arena's PA system. Use the environment. Where are your squad leaders, sir? A Valkyrie cadet named Zixi dropped from a ceiling perch next to me, her forearms holding various weapons. Squad leader Thorax is down. So is backup leader Hen. The beast went straight for the command structure. Smart creature. Terrifying. But what about casualties? 15 injured, 3 critical. We have been evacuating them through the side exits, but the beast keeps circling back. It won't let us establish a defensive perimeter. I watched the Razorfiend tear through another barrier, scattering cadets like leaves. This was bad. Really bad. If we didn't get that thing under control soon, we'd have dead students, and dead students meant inquiries. And inquiries meant my career would be shorter than a Mantarian's lifespan in a firefight. Where's the containment team? 3 minutes out, sir. 3 minutes might as well be 3 hours. That thing could kill 24 cadets in 3 minutes. I grabbed a plasma rifle from the weapons rack and charged into the arena. All cadets. Fall back to the eastern perimeter. Now, I'm going to draw its attention. Zixi hissed something that probably translated to, "Are you insane?" But I was already moving. Sometimes the best teaching method is demonstration, and sometimes you just have to be willing to risk your own carapace to save your students. The Razorfiend noticed me immediately. Good. Its multiple eyes fixed on me, and it let out a shriek that resonated in frequencies both audible and not. The sound made my organs vibrate uncomfortably. "That's right, you ugly pile of scales," I shouted, firing a burst of plasma at its face. The bolts splashed off its armored hide, but it got the message. "Come get," it charged. "Have you ever had several tons of pure murder rush at you at 40 miles per hour? No? Count yourself lucky." I dove left, rolled behind a concrete pillar, and fired again. The Razorfiend's claws tore chunks out of the pillar as it passed. I could feel the heat from its body, smell the acrid stench of its breath. This thing had probably eaten something recently, and I did not want to become dessert. "Sir, the containment team is here." Blix's voice crackled. "They need a clear shot." "Working on it," I yelled back, sprinting toward the center of the arena. The Razorfiend followed, destroying everything in its path. Behind me, I could hear the cadets evacuating. Good. That's what I want. Then I heard something that made my blood actually freeze this time. No! There's still someone in there. I risked a glance over my shoulder. Sure enough, in one of the far corners of the arena, partially hidden behind an overturned vehicle, I saw movement. A single cadet, apparently trapped or too injured to move, and the Razorfiend had noticed too. The beast's attention shifted from me to this new helpless target. It let out another one of those horrible shrieks and changed direction, bounding across the arena with terrifying speed. "Containment team, now!" I roared, but I knew they wouldn't make it in time. The angle was wrong. The beast was too fast. The cadet stood up. That's when I realized two things simultaneously. First, the cadet wasn't injured. And second, the cadet was human. I'd seen humans around the academy. Of course, kept my distance mostly. They were in the beginner classes, the remedial programs. But let's see if these fragile aliens can survive basic training courses. None of them should have been in an advanced combat arena. This one was small, even for a human. Maybe 5.5 feet tall, with that weird hair color they come in. This one had brown hair pulled back in what they call a ponytail. The name tag on the uniform read Kira Webb. Cadet Webb stood there, arms at her sides, as several tons of apex predator charged straight at her. She didn't run, didn't dive for cover, didn't even raise a weapon. She just stood there. "Move!" I screamed, running toward her position. Knowing I'd never make it in time, the Razorfiend closed the distance in seconds. 10 feet away. 5 feet. 3. And then it stopped. I mean, it didn't just slow down. It stopped. All that momentum, all that mass, all that killing intent, just halted like someone had hit a pause button on reality itself. The beast stood there, maybe 2 feet from Cadet Webb, its mouth open, its claws extended, frozen in mid-strike. Those multiple eyes, usually wild and unfocused with rage, were fixed on the human with an expression I'd never seen on a Razorfiend before. Fear. The entire arena went silent. Every cadet, every instructor, every security officer watching through the monitors, we all just… Cadet Webb tilted her head slightly, looking up at the creature that should have torn her apart 3 seconds ago. She didn't smile, didn't frown. Her expression was completely neutral, almost curious. "Good boy," she said quietly. Her voice was steady, calm, like she was talking to a pet and not a hyper-lethal murder machine. "You are scared, aren't you? It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you." The Razorfiend made a sound I'd never heard from one before. A sort of low, warbling whimper. It took a step backward. "That's it," Webb continued, taking a small step forward. The beast flinched but didn't attack. "You are just scared and confused. New place, loud noises, people hurting you. I get it." She held out her hand, palm up, slowly, non-threatening. The Razorfiend leaned forward and sniffed her hand. I couldn't believe what I was watching. This was impossible. Razorfiends don't respond to anything except violence. They don't back down. They don't submit. They certainly don't act like frightened animals around prey species. "Sir," Sixie whispered next to me. I hadn't even noticed her approach. "Sir, what is happening?" "I have absolutely no idea," I replied honestly. Webb was now standing right next to the Razorfiend, her hand resting on its armored head. The beast had lowered itself almost to the ground, its body language completely submissive. It made another one of those whimpering sounds. "You want to go home, don't you?" Webb said softly. "Back to your world, where things make sense." The Razorfiend's tail, which had been lashing dangerously moments ago, now swept slowly back and forth, almost like a dog wagging its tail. "What?" "The void. Containment team," I said carefully into my comm. "Stand by. Do not, I repeat, do not engage unless I give the command." "Sir, are you sure?" "No. But I'm curious to see how this plays out." Webb turned slightly, looking at me for the first time. Her eyes were brown. I noticed human eyes always looked so strange to me, with those weird round pupils. But there was something in her gaze, something that made my combat instincts twitch. "Instructor Vanthor, right?" she called out. Her voice echoed slightly in the now quiet arena. "That's correct, Cadet Webb. Would you care to explain what you are doing?" "Calming down an animal that was frightened and defending itself," she replied matter-of-factly. "May I have permission to lead it back to its containment unit? I think it will come quietly if someone asks nicely." Asks nicely. She wanted to ask the Razorfiend nicely. Every fiber of my being, every bit of my training and experience told me this was insane. Razorfiends don't respond to polite requests. They respond to overwhelming force and chemical sedation. That's it. That's the only language they understand. But I looked at the beast, pressed low to the ground, its eyes tracking Webb's every movement with what could only be described as trust, and I made a decision that probably violated about 40 different safety protocols. "Permission granted, Cadet. Containment team, fall back but maintain visual. If that thing so much as twitches wrong." "Understood, sir." Webb smiled. It was a small smile, almost sad. "Come on, big guy, let's get you home." She started walking toward the containment unit entrance. The Razorfiend followed her like an oversized, heavily armored puppy. I watched them go, my mind trying to process what had just happened. Around me, other instructors and cadets were emerging from cover, all wearing similar expressions of shock and confusion. "Sir?" Blix appeared at my elbow, his antennae twitching nervously. "Sir, should I report this to command?" "Report what, exactly?" I asked. That a human cadet somehow tamed a Razorfiend using nothing but a calm voice and hand gestures. "They will think we are all suffering from atmosphere poison." "But sir, we all saw it. There are recordings." "I know, Plix. Trust me, I know." I watched as Webb guided the beast into the containment unit. The creature went willingly, even seemed reluctant to leave her side. Once inside, the magnetic restraints engaged with a solid thunk. The Razorfiend didn't even struggle. Webb patted its head one more time through the energy barrier, then turned and walked back toward us. Her uniform wasn't even dirty. Not a scratch on her. As she approached, I noticed the other cadets giving her a wide berth. Can't say I blamed them. If I just watched someone befriend certain death, I'd be wary too. Cadet Webb, I said as she stopped in front of me. Protocol demanded I chew her out for being in a restricted training area. Protocol demanded I ask how she got past security. Protocol demanded a lot of things. Instead, I asked, "How did you do that?" She shrugged. The beast was scared. Scared animals act on instinct. Instinct says attack threats, but I wasn't threatening it, so it didn't attack. That's the most simplistic explanation I have ever heard for something that should be impossible. Sometimes the simple answer is the right one, sir. Razorfiends are not just scared animals, Cadet. They are apex predators from one of the most hostile worlds in the known galaxy. They don't have a fear response. They are the thing other creatures fear. Webb's expression didn't change. Everything has a fear response, Instructor, even apex predators, especially when they are taken from their environment and put somewhere that doesn't make sense to them. That Razorfiend didn't want to be here any more than your injured cadets wanted to face it. I stared at her. There was something in her voice, a certainty that came from experience. This wasn't theoretical knowledge from a textbook. This was something else. Where are you supposed to be right now, Cadet Webb? According to the roster, you should be in basic combat theory with Instructor Velcros. I finished the coursework early, sir. I was told I could observe the advanced exercises. Observe, not participate. And certainly not enter an active combat zone with a loose war beast. I know, sir. But everyone was evacuating, and I saw the situation, and She paused, choosing her words carefully. Someone needed to de-escalate before people got killed. That someone should have been the containment team. Trained professionals with specialized equipment and years of experience. With respect, sir. The containment team was going to try to subdue it with force. That would have made it fight harder. More people would have gotten hurt. She wasn't wrong. I hated that she wasn't wrong. Report to my office after you get cleared by medical, I said finally. We need to have a very long conversation about protocol safety regulations and the chain of command. Yes, sir. She saluted crisp and proper, then walked toward the medical station where the other injured cadets were being treated. I noticed several of them watching her with expressions ranging from awe to suspicion. Zixi appeared at my side again. Sir, with your permission, I'd like to request a background check on Cadet Webb. Already thinking the same thing, I admitted. Humans don't just do what she did. There has to be an explanation. Should we be concerned? I thought about that. Really thought about it. A human who could somehow pacify a Razorfiend with nothing but body language and tone of voice. What else could they do? Yes, I said slowly. I think we should be very concerned, but also very interested. Over the next few hours, the arena was secured. The injured cadets were treated and a dozen different incident reports were filed. The official story was that the containment team had successfully subdued the Razorfiend before any fatalities occurred. Webb's involvement was noted in my personal report, but kept out of the general circulation. No need to cause a panic or start rumors. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. About her. About what it meant. By the time my shift ended, I had Cadet Webb's file pulled up on my personal terminal. Human female. Age 24 standard years. Homeworld listed as Earth. Region designated Canada. Previous occupation wildlife rehabilitation specialist. Wildlife rehabilitation. Of course. I kept reading. Her entrance exam scores were average. Not bad, but nothing exceptional. Physical assessments placed her in the bottom 10th percentile for strength and durability, which was typical for humans. Combat simulations showed competent but unremarkable tactical thinking. Nothing in this file explained what I'd witnessed. There was a knock on my office door. Enter. Cadet Webb stepped inside, still in her training uniform. Medical had cleared her, apparently. Not a scratch on her. Just like I'd observed. You wanted to see me, sir? Sit down, Cadet. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. She sat, her posture perfect. Her hands folded in her lap. I have been reviewing your file. Yes, sir. It says you worked in wildlife rehabilitation before joining the coalition military. Want to explain what that means? I helped injured and displaced animals recover and return to their natural habitats, sir. On Earth we have many species that come into conflict with human settlements. Rather than kill them, some of us work to relocate and rehabilitate them. The file mentions you specialized in dangerous predators. Define dangerous. She considered this. I worked primarily with large carnivores, sir. Bears, large cats, wolves, occasionally crocodilians and large raptors. And you are telling me that your experience with Earth animals somehow prepared you to handle a Razorfiend? Not specifically, sir, but the principles are the same. Understand the animal's motivation. Recognize its fear response. Don't escalate. Give it an exit strategy. Most attacks happen because an animal feels cornered, not because it's genuinely aggressive. I leaned back in my chair, my exoskeleton creaking slightly. Cadet Webb, I'm going to be direct with you. What you did today should have gotten you killed. By all logic, by all known information about Razorfiends, you should be in several pieces scattered across Arena 7 right now. Instead, you are sitting in my office trying to explain xenobiology to me using Earth animal behavior as a reference. Yes, sir. It doesn't bother you? That you could have died? I knew I wouldn't die, sir. How could you possibly know that? She met my eyes, and for the first time I saw something flicker in her expression. Something old. Something that had seen things that would give most species nightmares. Because I have done it before, she said quietly. Different planets, different species, same principle. When you have stood down a charging Servoxian Gorax with nothing but your voice and your nerve, a Razorfiend doesn't seem that scary. I'd heard of Servoxian Goraxes, 30-foot-tall omnivores with territorial instincts that made Razorfiends look friendly. They were native to a mining world that had been evacuated specifically because the colonists couldn't coexist with them. The Servax colony was abandoned 8 years ago. I said slowly, there are no records of anyone remaining on that world. Official records, Webb corrected gently. There were about 40 of us who stayed behind as part of an unofficial conservation effort, trying to establish protocols for peaceful coexistence. It didn't work out the way we hoped, but I learned a lot. Such as the fact that most species, no matter how dangerous they seem, just want to be left alone to live their lives. And such as the fact that humans are really, really good at reading predator behavior because we evolved alongside some of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. We had to be, or we wouldn't have survived. I processed this. Humans were prey species by every metric we used. Soft, slow, weak. But Webb was suggesting something different. Something that made a disturbing kind of sense. You are saying humans evolved to understand predators? I said. Not to fight them. To understand them. We did both, sir. But yes, understanding came first. Knowing when to run, when to hide, when to fight, when to submit, reading body language, recognizing warning signs, predicting behavior. Those skills kept our ancestors alive long enough to develop tools and weapons. And they are still there in all of us, if we know how to use them. And you know how to use them. Yes, sir. I do. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside my office, I could hear the sounds of the academy going about its evening routines. Cadets heading to mess hall, instructors filing reports, life continuing as normal. Except nothing felt normal anymore. Cadet Webb, I'm going to ask you a question and I need an honest answer. Yes, sir. Are all humans like you? She smiled at that. A real smile this time with some actual humor in it. No, sir. Most humans would have run screaming from that Razorfiend. I'm specialized. There aren't many of us left who do this kind of work, but there are some. A few. We tend to find each other eventually. Usually in places where no one else wants to be, dealing with problems no one else wants to deal with. I thought about this. About what it meant for the Coalition, for the Academy, for military operations across the galaxy. If humans had this ability, this capacity to interface with dangerous species in ways no one else could. Sir, if I may. Webb leaned forward slightly. I know what you are thinking, and I need you to understand something. What I can do, it's not a weapon. It's not something you can train into people or deploy on a battlefield. It requires patience, understanding, respect for the species you are dealing with. The moment you try to weaponize it, the moment you lose that respect, it stops working. You are saying the Coalition can't use this ability. I'm saying it only works if the person using it actually cares about the outcome beyond winning or losing. The Razorfiend didn't respond to me because I had some secret technique. It responded because I genuinely wanted to help it, and it could sense that. I studied her carefully. That's going to be a hard sell to command. They like things they can quantify, replicate, deploy. I know, sir, but I thought you should know the truth. I appreciate that, Cadet. I closed her file on my terminal. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow you are going to be reassigned from basic combat theory to advanced xenobiology and cross-species communication. It's a specialty track that will give you more opportunities to work with various species. You will also be assisting with the War Beast training program under my direct supervision. Her eyes widened slightly. Sir? I don't think. That wasn't a request, Cadet. What you did today saved lives. But it also revealed a significant gap in our training protocols. If humans have this capability, even a small subset of humans, then we need to understand it better, which means you are going to teach us. I'm not sure I can teach what I do, sir. Then you will try. Because like it or not, Cadet Webb, you just became the most interesting human in the Coalition military, and I intend to figure out exactly what that means. She stood, saluted, and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. Sir? For what it's worth, I think most humans could do what I do. If they learned how. We are not as weak as we look. We are just different, and maybe that's okay. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a growing sense that the Coalition had severely underestimated humanity. Again, 3 weeks after the Razorfiend incident, I found myself questioning every assumption I had ever made about humans. Cadet Kira Webb had become something of a legend around the academy. Half the cadets worshipped her. The other half avoided her like she carried a plague. The instructors were split pretty much the same way. Some thought she was the most valuable asset we had gained in years. Others thought she was a walking catastrophe waiting to happen. I fell somewhere in the middle, which was an uncomfortable place to be. Instructor Vanthor, you need to see this. Zixi burst into my office without knocking, all 4 of her arms gesturing frantically. It is happening again. I did not like the sound of that. What is happening again? The human. She is in the restricted xenobiology containment area, with the Venrath Stalker. I was already running before Zixi finished her sentence. The Venrath Stalker. Oh, for the love of all that was void and empty. The Venrath Stalker was not a training animal. It was not even supposed to be at the academy. It was a captured specimen that xenobiology kept for research purposes only, locked behind enough security measures to stop a small army. Apparently not enough to stop one determined human. I reached the containment area in record time, my claws leaving fresh scratches in the floor. The security station was empty. Not abandoned, just empty. The 2 guards who should have been there, a Horgathy like myself and a Donath scanner, were both standing outside the main containment chamber, staring through the observation window like they had been turned to stone. Why is no one stopping this? I roared. The Horgathy guard, whose name was Torvik, just pointed through the window. Sir, we tried. She told us to wait, and then she went inside. And now we are too afraid to interrupt because we have no idea what will happen. I looked through the window. The Venrath Stalker was a nightmare made flesh. 12 feet tall when standing upright, covered in thick gray hide that could deflect energy weapons, with 6 arms ending in razor talons and a mouthful of teeth designed to shear through bone. Its species had wiped out 3 separate colonies before the Coalition managed to quarantine their homeworld. They hunted in packs, used crude tools, and were smart enough to set traps. This particular specimen had killed 2 researchers and injured 5 others before being successfully contained. It was scheduled for termination next month because keeping it was too dangerous. Even sedated, it had managed to injure handlers. Cadet Webb was sitting on the floor of its containment cell, about 6 feet away from it, eating what appeared to be a ration bar. The Stalker was also sitting, well, crouching. Its multiple eyes were fixed on Webb with an intensity that made my combat instincts scream. But it was not attacking. It was not even moving. It was just watching her eat. How long has she been in there? I asked quietly. 17 minutes, sir, the Donath guard replied. His voice carried multiple harmonic layers of terror. She used her security override to access the cell. We called for backup, but she asked us to wait before we gassed the chamber. She has no security override clearance for this facility. We know, sir, but the system accepted her credentials anyway. I made a mental note to have a very stern conversation with whoever managed our security protocols. Later, After I made sure my most problematic cadet was not eaten by an apex predator, Webb finished her ration bar, crumpled the wrapper, and tossed it toward a disposal chute in the corner. Then she pulled out another bar, unwrapped it, and broke off a piece. She held it out toward the stalker. "No," I breathed. "Do not do that. Do not feed the murder beast." The stalker leaned forward. Slowly, its nostrils flared as it sniffed the offered food. Then, moving with surprising delicacy for something with 6-inch claws, it took the piece of ration bar from her hand and ate it. Webb smiled and broke off another piece. "Sir, I am uncomfortable," Torvak said. That was Horgathy for absolutely terrified. "You and me both," I muttered. I activated the cell intercom. "Cadet Webb, this is Instructor Vanthor. Please exit the containment cell immediately." She looked up at the camera and shook her head. "Not yet, sir. We are making progress." "Progress toward what?" "Being lunch? Progress toward understanding," she replied calmly, offering another piece of food to the stalker. It took it, less hesitantly this time. "Did you know Venrath stalkers are social creatures? They form complex family units in the wild. This one has been kept in isolation for 8 months. It is going insane from loneliness. It is a hostile xenomorph classified as extremely dangerous. It is an intelligent being that has been imprisoned and mistreated," Webb corrected. "There is a difference." The stalker made a sound, a sort of low clicking noise deep in its chest. Webb responded with a similar clicking sound. Not identical, but close enough that the stalker's head tilted in what might have been curiosity. "Are you clicking at it?" I demanded. "I am attempting communication, sir. The researcher's notes mentioned that stalkers use click patterns as part of their language. I have been studying the recordings." "You have been studying recordings of hostile alien vocalizations in your spare time?" "Yes, sir. Is that a problem?" I did not know how to answer that. Technically, no. It was not against any regulation. Realistically, it was absolutely terrifying that she had decided to do this on her own initiative. The stalker clicked again. A more complex pattern this time. Webb attempted to replicate it. The stalker's posture shifted slightly, becoming less tense. It clicked back at her, then slowly extended one of its 6 arms and gently, incredibly gently, touched her shoulder with the flat of its palm. Every guard in the room reached for their weapons. I held up a hand to stop them. Webb did not flinch. She simply placed her own hand over the stalker's massive palm. They stayed like that for several heartbeats. "I think it is trying to tell me it is grateful," Webb said softly. "The click patterns match what the researchers documented as expressions of positive social bonding. Or it is telling you that you taste good and it is planning how to eat you slowly," I suggested. "I do not think so, sir. Its body language is completely non-aggressive. Look at its breathing pattern. Slow and regular. That is calm. If it wanted to hurt me, its respiration would be elevated." I looked. She was right. The stalker's breathing was indeed slow and regular. Its pupils were not dilated. Its talons were retracted. Every physical indicator suggested a creature that was relaxed, not preparing to attack. How did she know that? How could she possibly know that? "Cadet Webb, I am going to ask you one more time to exit that cell, and I am going to respectfully decline, sir. This creature has been scheduled for termination. I would like to request that the order be suspended pending further evaluation." "That is not your decision to make." "I know, sir, but it is your decision. You are the senior combat instructor. You have authority over threat assessment protocols. If you determine that this stalker can be safely managed, you can suspend the termination order." She had done her homework. She knew exactly which regulations to quote and which authority structures to navigate. This was not impulsive. This was calculated. Terrifying. The stalker clicked something else. Webb clicked back. The creature's mouth opened, showing all those horrible teeth. And I was about to order the guards to flood the chamber with sedative gas when I realized it was not attacking. It was smiling, or doing whatever passed for a smile among Venrath stalkers. "It just told me a joke," Webb announced. "A joke?" "Yes, sir. Well, I think it is a joke. The translation is rough. Something about hunters and prey and reversals of expectation. The humor does not translate perfectly, but the intent is clear." I stared at her, then at the stalker, then back at her. You are telling me that you are having a conversation with a creature that killed 2 researchers and injured 5 others. Yes, sir. And it is telling me that it killed those researchers because they heard it first. They used pain compliance to force it to perform tasks. It was defending itself. That is its story. I believe it, sir. Everything in its behavior supports that conclusion. This is not a mindless killer. This is a traumatized individual who has been pushed past its limits. The Stalker made another sound. This one softer, almost sad. Webb responded with a similar tone. The creature lowered its head and Webb reached up and gently touched its forehead. Zixi made a strangled sound beside me. This is not possible. This cannot be happening. And yet it is happening, I said. Because apparently humans can do impossible things when we are not looking. Over the next hour, Webb slowly coaxed the Stalker into performing a series of simple tasks. Nothing aggressive, nothing violent, just basic interactions that demonstrated intelligence and self-control. Stacking objects, sorting items by color, following verbal commands. The researchers who arrived to witness this looked like they were having religious experiences. Or nervous breakdowns. Possibly both. Instructor Vanthor, one of them said. A Valkyrie named Dr. Prin with 6 degrees in xenobiology. This changes everything. Everything. If Venrath stalkers are capable of this level of cognition and social bonding, then the entire quarantine classification needs to be re-evaluated. We may have committed cultural genocide against a sentient species because we assumed they were non-sapient predators. That is a big conclusion to jump to based on 1 specimen and 1 human, I cautioned. But look at it, Prin gestured frantically. Look at the way it responds to her. That is not trained behavior. That is genuine communication. We have been trying to establish baseline communication protocols with this specimen for 8 months and got nowhere. She walks in and has a conversation in under an hour. She has a gift, I admitted. But gifts do not change policy without evidence. Then we gather evidence. We document everything. We bring in more researchers. This could be the breakthrough we need to establish peaceful contact with dozens of species currently classified as hostile. I could see where this was going, and I did not like it one bit. Dr. Prin, Cadet Webb is a military trainee, not a xenobiology specialist. She has duties and training requirements. Then reassign her, permanently. Her talents are wasted in combat training. Her talents, I said carefully, are going to get her killed if she keeps walking into containment cells with creatures that can tear her apart. Today was the Razorfiend. Now it is the Stalker. What is next? Is she going to try befriending a void Leviathan? Those things eat starships for fun. Dr. Prin opened his mouth to argue, but a commotion from the containment cell interrupted him. The Stalker had suddenly gone rigid. All its eyes focused on something we could not see. Its respiration spiked dramatically. Webb stood up, her posture alert. Something is wrong. It is frightened. Scan the area, I barked at the guards. What is it sensing? The Doneth guard's eyes went distant as he accessed multiple sensor feeds simultaneously. Sir, there is an unauthorized ship approaching the station. It just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the outer perimeter. Configuration matches known pirate vessels. Oh, perfect. Just absolutely perfect. Pirates attacking the Academy. That happened maybe once a decade, and it had to be today. Sound general alarm. All cadets to secure positions. Combat instructors to defensive stations. I turned back to the containment cell. Cadet Webb, we are evacuating this area. You need to exit that cell now. She looked at the Stalker, which was now making distressed clicking sounds. It knows something is wrong. It wants to help. It wants to help? It is a contained specimen. It is an apex predator that can sense threats from miles away, Webb corrected. And it is telling me that whatever is coming has bad intentions. The station alarm began blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the facility. The intercom crackled to life with the voice of Station Commander Vrel, a 4-armed Mentarian with ice water for blood. All personnel, this is not a drill. We have multiple hostile vessels approaching. They are demanding we surrender our war beasts and research specimens. All combat teams to positions. Non-combat personnel to secure locations. Estimated time to engagement, 4 minutes. Webb met my eyes through the observation window. Sir, I can help? Absolutely not. You are a cadet. Your job is to get to safety, not to fight pirates. I am not talking about fighting. I am talking about using resources we already have. You have a facility full of predators and war beasts. What if they wanted to help defend their home? I stared at her. You cannot be serious. The Stalker wants to fight. So does the Razorfiend. Probably half the creatures in this facility would defend their territory if given the chance. They just need someone to ask them. They need someone to ask them, I repeated slowly. Cadet Webb, these are not pets. They are dangerous xenomorphs kept under strict containment for very good reasons. Those reasons were that they might hurt people. But what if those people are pirates trying to steal them? Suddenly we have aligned interests. Dr. Prin made an excited chittering sound. She is right. Many of these species are highly territorial. If they perceive the station as their territory, they would defend it instinctively. And if they decide to eat us instead of the pirates, I demanded, then we will have made a tactical error, Webb said calmly. But right now we are outnumbered and outgunned. The pirates know exactly what we have here, and they know exactly how much it is worth on the black market. They would not attack unless they thought they could win. We need every advantage we can get. I looked at the sensor display. 6 ships. Heavy weapons. Boarding pods already launching. The Academy's defenses were good but not designed for full-scale assault. We had maybe 200 combat-capable personnel on station, most of them instructors and senior cadets, against a prepared pirate fleet with boarding parties. That was not great odds. And we had a facility full of apex predators that someone wanted to steal. I made a decision that would probably get me court-martialed, or promoted, or both. Release protocols, authorization Vanthor. Instructor code 973. Emergency combat deployment. All war beast containment units to standby. The guards looked at me like I had lost my mind. Sir, are you certain? No, but I am desperate, which is almost the same thing. Cadet Webb, you have 5 minutes to convince as many of these creatures as possible to defend this station instead of killing everyone on it. Can you do that? She smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for exactly this opportunity. Yes, sir. I can do that, but I will need help. Are there any other humans on station? 3. 2 in engineering, 1 in medical. Get them here. Now. And anyone else who has worked with animals, any species. We need people who understand non-verbal communication. You heard her. I roared at the guards. Move! They moved. Webb turned back to the Stalker and clicked something at it. The creature clicked back, its body language shifting from distressed to eager. She opened the containment cell door. The Stalker walked out calmly, staying close to her side like a trained guard animal. Every researcher in the facility took several large steps backward. This is the biggest mistake or the most brilliant strategy I have ever witnessed, Sexy muttered beside me. Possibly both at the same time. Story of my life lately, I replied. The next 5 minutes were complete chaos. Webb and the other humans, joined by a few brave volunteers from other species, moved through the containment facility like a coordinated team. Somehow, impossibly, they communicated with creature after creature. The Razorfiend. A pack of Hectros runners, 3 Thornbacks. Even a juvenile void serpent that probably should not have been on the station at all, but that was a question for another time. Each creature was given a choice. Stay contained or defend the station. Every single one chose to defend. I watched through security feeds as this impossible army assembled in the main hangar bay. Dozens of species that would normally fight each other on sight, standing together in loose formation, and in the middle of it all, barely visible among the massive predators, stood Cadet Kira Webb and 3 other humans. They are insane, Commander Vel said over the command channel. His voice carried multiple harmonic layers of respect mixed with disbelief. But if this works, I am recommending all of them for commendations. If it does not work, I am listing them as casualties of temporary madness. Fair enough? I agreed. I was in the tactical command center now, watching multiple displays at once. The pirate boarding pods were breaching the outer hull. Dozens of armed raiders were pouring into the station. They expected resistance from security teams and armed cadets. They were not expecting what they were about to get. "All units, stand by," I ordered. "Let them get inside. Let them commit to the breach. Then we release." On the displays, I watched the pirates advance through the corridors. Heavy armor, military-grade weapons, professional movements. These were not amateurs. This was a coordinated strike team that had done this before. They reached the main corridor junction that led to the containment facilities. Right where we wanted them. "Cadet Webb, you have authorization to deploy. Try not to let them eat everyone." Her voice came back calm and steady. "Understood, sir. All units forward." The containment bay doors opened. What happened next would probably be analyzed by military tacticians for years, maybe centuries. The pirates saw the wave of predators coming and did exactly what any sensible military force would do. They opened fire with everything they had: energy bolts, kinetic rounds, explosive charges. Enough firepower to stop a small army. The creatures did not stop. The Razorfiend took point, its armored scales deflecting most of the incoming fire. Behind it, the Hectros runners moved with blinding speed, their natural agility making them nearly impossible to hit. The Thornbacks created mobile cover with their massive carapace. The Stalker used its 6 arms to literally throw pirates out of the way, and the humans directed them all like conductors leading an orchestra. "Left flank, cut off their retreat." Webb's voice cut through the chaos. "Razorfiend, straight ahead. Runners, harassment pattern 7. Stalker, protect the rear." The creatures obeyed. Not perfectly, not with military precision, but with enough coordination to be devastating. The pirates never had a chance. They were trained to fight other soldiers, not to fight an ecosystem that had decided they were a threat. Within minutes, they were retreating. Within 10 minutes, they were surrendering. Within 15 minutes, the entire boarding party was neutralized. I watched it all on the monitors, unable to quite believe what I was seeing. A handful of humans and a collection of war beasts had just accomplished what should have required hours of fierce combat. "Sir," Zik said quietly, "I am beginning to understand why Command was hesitant about accepting humans into the military." "Why? Because they can turn any environment into a weapon." "No, because they refuse to see the universe the way we see it. We look at a Razorfiend and see a threat to be contained. They look at it and see a potential ally. We look at a Venrath Stalker and see a monster. They look at it and see an individual that can be communicated with. Everything we think we know about combat, about threat assessment, about the nature of different species, humans just ignore all of it and find solutions we never imagined." I thought about that. Really thought about it. She was right. Humans did not play by the same rules as everyone else. Not because they were stronger or smarter or faster, but because they refused to accept the limitations everyone else took for granted. The pirate ships retreated. The station was secured. The creatures were returned to their containment units, all of them unharmed, many of them looking pleased with themselves in various species-specific ways. And Cadet Kira Webb stood in the hangar bay, covered in scorch marks and scratches, grinning like she had just had the best day of her life. I walked up to her, flanked by Commander Vrelal and half a dozen other senior officers. Everyone wanted to know what to make of this. "Cadet Webb," Commander Vrel said, his voice carrying harmonic layers of profound respect, "what you accomplished today was extraordinary, unprecedented, and probably in violation of about 60 regulations that I cannot even begin to list right now." "Yes, sir," she replied. "It seemed like the right thing to do at the time." "The right thing," I repeated. "You mobilized a fighting force composed of apex predators from a dozen different worlds, coordinated them in live combat, and successfully repelled a pirate assault, and you described this as the right thing to do at the time." She shrugged. "They wanted to help, sir. I just asked them nicely." Commander Vrel made a sound that might have been a laugh, or might have been a sob. "I am going to need to file a report about this." Several reports, possibly entire volumes of reports. And I have absolutely no idea how to explain what happened in terms that Command will believe. "I can help with that, sir," Webb offered. "I kept notes." "You kept notes? During combat?" "Of course you did." He turned to me. "Instructor Vanthor, I am placing Cadet Webb under your direct supervision indefinitely. Whatever training program you think is appropriate for her unique talents, you have full authorization to implement it. Just please, by all that is void and empty, try to keep her from starting an interstellar incident. I will do my best, sir, I said. But I make no promises. That night, after all the reports were filed and all the injuries treated and all the containment units secured, I found Webb sitting alone in the observation lounge, staring out at the stars. Mind if I join you? I asked. She gestured to the seat across from her. Of course, sir. I sat down, feeling my exoskeleton creak with the effort. I was getting too old for this much excitement in one day. You know what you did today is going to change everything, I said. I know, sir. The Coalition is going to want to study you, test you, figure out how to replicate what you can do. I know that too, sir, and you are okay with that. She was quiet for a moment, watching a distant nebula shimmer in the viewport. Instructor Vanthor, why do you think humans joined the Coalition? Because you wanted protection, access to advanced technology, a place in the galactic community. That is what the politicians say. But do you know what my grandmother told me before I left Earth? She said humans have always been lonely. We spent thousands of years thinking we were alone in the universe, and then we found out we were not alone. We were just late to the party. Every other species had been exploring the stars for centuries before we even left our solar system. We were the new kids, the weak ones, the species everyone assumed would not last. And maybe that is true. Maybe we are weak compared to everyone else. Then why are you here? She turned to look at me, and those strange brown eyes held something I had not seen in them before. Determination, purpose, hope. Because being weak means we had to learn how to survive in other ways. We learned how to read body language, how to understand intention, how to find common ground with creatures that could kill us. We learned how to make friends with predators, because it was better than being prey. And now we are out here in this vast galaxy full of species that do not understand each other, that are afraid of each other, that fight each other because they assume they have to. And I think humans might be able to help with that, not by being the strongest or the smartest, but by being the ones who can talk to anyone, even the monsters. I sat with that for a while, thinking about everything I had seen, everything I had learned about Razorfiends and Venrath stalkers, and humans who refused to see enemies where everyone else saw threats. Your grandmother was a wise person, I said finally. She was. She used to work with wolves back on Earth. Before she passed, she told me that humans and wolves became partners thousands of years ago because both species were willing to take a chance on each other. She said maybe we could do the same thing with other species. All we had to do was be brave enough to try. And are you brave enough? She smiled. I walked up to a Razorfiend today, sir. I think brave is in my job description. I laughed at that. Actually laughed. Something I rarely did. Fair point, Cadet. Fair point. We sat there together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. And I thought about the future, about what it would mean to have humans integrated into the Coalition military. About what it would mean to have people who saw potential allies instead of enemies, who saw individuals instead of threats, who asked nicely instead of demanding compliance. It was going to be chaos. Absolute chaos. I could not wait to see what happened next. 3 months later, the Coalition formally established the Interspecies Communication Corps, the first military unit composed entirely of humans and commanded by newly promoted Lieutenant Kira Webb. Their mission was to establish peaceful contact with hostile species and integrate them into Coalition operations where possible. The Venrath Stalkers were the first species they successfully negotiated with. Turns out an entire civilization had been waiting for someone to simply ask them if they wanted to talk instead of shooting first. And the Razorfiend, that particular beast, requested transfer to Webb's command. Last I heard, it was serving as a guard animal on a frontier outpost, protecting colonists from actual threats while terrifying visitors who did not know it was friendly now. As for me, I am still teaching at the academy, still training cadets, still trying to keep humans from doing impossible things that give me stress spiracles. But I have learned something important, something that probably should have been obvious from the start. Humans are not weak. They are just playing a different game than the rest of us. And it turns out their game might be exactly what the galaxy needs, even if it does give the rest of us heart attacks on a regular basis.